It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.
The Bears won their first playoff game in 15 years. It was over the Packers, and they grated cheese, which is amazing to me. Plus, the EP Podcast has a great guest on today. Evergreen Park's own village trustee, Mark Marzullo, in here in moments. We're going to talk about the village budget. How do they create it? Where does the money come from? Where does the money go? How do they decide who gets what? Should be a great conversation. Plus, there's a ton of things going on this month, this week in Evergreen Park. We're going to get to all of it. Before we do that, your first guest, your only guest actually today on the show, Mark Marzullo, is brought to you by Porter Cullen's. Remember, they're over there at 99th and Clifton Park, and they were started by four great friends and then taken over by another amazing owner, and they've been in Evergreen Park in the heart of it for years now, and they have traditional Irish cuisine, including the legendary corned beef egg rolls, Guinness battered fish and chips, along with an ongoing rotation of homemade daily soups, weekly sandwich and salad specials, and monthly food and drink pairings from fresh fish tacos to mushroom ravioli and so much more. I was in there this past week. Every time I stop in, you bump into friends, you bump into people you haven't seen in a long time, you're happy to bump into, and you get a great experience. Check out Porter Cullen's at portercullens.com. And now, on to our guest for today's episode, Mark Marzullo on the EP Podcast. And joining me here in studio, this is his first trip here. He used to sit at the 9-foot homemade oak bar all the time, and I look forward to showing you the new Spoken Vine studios that are going to be there shortly over at 95th and Kedzie. But village trustee Mark Marzullo, one trip to this location. You can check it off the list.
One trip, checked it all out, looks beautiful. I missed the bar, but I'm sure that we'll get back to that someday because that was a staple in Evergreen Park.
I love the bar, and
I
miss the bar terribly, and I really do. Like, there are only a few things that I look back on fondly over the last 20 years, besides my children, and the bar is one of them.
Well, the depressing part is me. There's 3 bars that are missing now. I used to put my elbows on the Pants Lounge. They tore that down. I used to put my elbows at Bleeckers, and they tore that down. So, don't invite me over. They might tear your place down when you build a new bar.
They really should. That Binny's should just put like a little mini bar in there that's like in that shape of the one that used to be at Bleeckers, right?
They had a little thing in there where the stools used to be, and then they covered up with alcohol. But yeah, that was some, those walls could talk.
Yeah, I know. That was always one of those bars. That bar was interesting. I remember when I would go in there, I always thought to myself, like, you sit there and it was like one of those circle bars. You still get that in the Legion, right?
Right.
But you're looking straight across at somebody else. And I used to laugh. I was in there one time and some guy was just staring at me. And I'm like, is he mad at me? Like, what is it? And it's just because he was staring off into the distance, but you're right across from people at that bar. That was an interesting one.
They were making sure everybody was from Evergreen Park back in those days too.
I was new. I was new. I want to remember.
You were new guy, so you were going to get all the heads turned around going, who's this guy? But yeah, that's how Panis was. But everybody. I mean, there was, my brother graduated in 1969 from my class. There's all kinds of characters in town, and everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
So those were enjoyable days when we were young.
That's fun. Now it's the beginning of the year, and you were mentioning to me that the village gets its whole budget together now at this point. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to talk about because I don't think people kind of understand how the whole thing works. But you would take me through what it's been like for the last, I don't know how long you've been working on it, for the last month, 2 months, whatever, but it's January now. You must have a pretty good idea what you're doing.
So typically our fiscal year ends, I believe, at the end of October. Okay, that's our fiscal year. And then we prepare during that time before that. How it comes down, Chris, is every year the department heads create a budget for their needs and kind of a wish list on things that they might want. And what will happen is that John Sawyer's the village treasurer, the mayor, and myself will meet. We'll have 2 days of meetings with all the department heads. They'll sit down. They'll explain what they need. Salaries and everything are kind of a constant. Where you're going to be with that. It's more like what initiatives do you got going on for the village and what major capital expenditures are we looking at that you would need. The police department's always going to need new squads cars because they're always kind of putting 80,000 miles a year. Fire trucks, we try to, do what we can with it, because I know those are multi-million-dollar vehicles now that take 2 to 3 years to make. So we look at something now for the fire department that we made in 2-3 years.
Right, it takes that long
to make this stuff.
To make them up. Yeah,
you can't get anything anymore. And of course, Public Works with all the trucks and bulldozers and things that suck up the leaves, and it's impossible to get the equipment. So we're budgeting now for things that we may need in the future.
Okay, so you come up with the budget, and I find this interesting. The department heads come in, sit down, and start talking with you. So before they do that, you already have an idea of what the village has to spend, because I would imagine there are years where there's more that's available. There are years where it's less is available. There are times where you have to make sure you're saving for a rainy day. So first, how do you get to that figure? Where do you figure out what you have?
While this process is going on with the department heads, the village treasurer, who's an unbelievable guy. He spends money like it's his own, and he don't spend a lot of money. So
that's how I want my I want my village treasurer to throw nickels around like they're manhole covers. I don't want him spending.
We love this guy.
Okay.
So while that's going on in the background, he's looking at revenue projections for 2026. What are our sales tax going to be? What are property tax and kind of like all the different avenues that we have to supply the village with funds. So he'll come up with and he's really good at it because he's done it for so long. So he'll come up with a projected idea what our revenues are going to be. And then the department heads come in, and then we'll look at what their needs are. And if we look at our projected revenues versus what our department heads request, and usually it's probably a little bit over the department heads because they all have a big wish list. If we had unlimited funds, what would you like? And they come with some things that they really need, and that's the priority things and capital expenditures that we look at. But at the end of the day, mostly everybody gets what they want because it's what they need based on our revenue projections. Someone may came to us and say, some department said, well, we need another car or something. We might say, well, it's really tight in the budget this year.
Right.
How's the car you have now? Well, it's got $50,000. Can you go another $25,000? We'll talk about it next year. Smaller items we'll cut back on, but necessary items, and especially the requests from the police department are number one on our list. Public safety is number one. The police chief has been the police chief comes in and says, this is what I need. And there's no BSing with him. He is right on target. And we as a village, as your board of trustees, without public safety, there's no town. So that's number one.
You said
public
that before.
Safety.
You've said
and that's always been my song.
Number one thing is public safety, and right behind it is you want to have small business, and you want up and down 95th Street. You need that kind of thing to happen.
If you don't have public safety, the rest of this stuff is just nonsense.
Right, because the business goes away if it's a crime. If it's a crime
zone, be
a
ghost town.
Right,
and we have the finest. Mike Saunders, another Evergreen Park High School graduate, which we love. Mike Saunders has done a phenomenal job. He's just a pleasure to work with. So we're so fortunate to have the police department that we have, the administrative staff of the police department. Everybody works together. It's just fantastic. So
going back to the money that the village has at its disposal, correct, just so that people understand it, I'm sure there's a ton of different revenue streams that create that pile of money.
That's correct.
But is it mainly property taxes? Is it the video gaming? Is it sales tax? What are the big feeders that can influence it? Because you did mention to me you're up this year. Like in COVID, you were down because of what was going on. Like you had a smaller pile of money. So where does it mainly come from?
Sales tax, income tax.
Okay.
Property tax. On your property tax bill, for example. 70% of your property tax goes to the schools.
Yes, we've learned that too.
Maybe 10 to 13% runs your whole village off the property tax. So we take revenue streams a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here to make it all come together to be one big pile.
Right. And as the mayor explained, I think on the show last month, she came on, she was talking about the idea that, yes, property taxes collect for the schools and for the village, but they are two completely different entities, completely different budgets. You don't see their money. They don't see your money. You don't control them. They don't control you. I only reason I point that out is because I can already see the comments that'll be in the show about it. I want people to understand that they're two very different entities.
You had the superintendent on there, and I listened to that. You know how many people came to me and said, why are you talking about the school, what they wanted to do? And there was a lot of hostility.
Yeah.
You could see in some of the comments. But as we explained, you have to go to a school board meeting. Talk to the school board people. They can explain to you. We don't have anything to do with it. Oh, you're the village. You can run the schools. No. I've been in this town for a long time, my whole life. There's District 231's got their own gig, 124's got their own gig, and that's the deal. They have their own board that they answer to, their own superintendents. They formulate their own budgets, and that's how it's always been.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that goes. Okay, so you've got the pile. I call it a pile. That's the best way I can describe it. I just imagine a big giant pile of money, like Scrooge McDuck has.
No, nobody's walking in with a wheelbarrow like cash.
Right now, Norm Anderson's over there swimming through the coins like Scrooge McDuck in the vault. No, but let's say you have the funds, and now you get the department heads that come in. And of course, police, it makes sense for it to be right up at the top, and sometimes you have to plan way out in advance. What's the normal way that people come to you for stuff? I'm curious about this, okay? Like, not to get too far into the weeds, but, I used to negotiate union contracts for the Cook County Sheriff's Police 911 dispatchers for years, okay? I would go in and ask for the world. Like, I'd walk in and be like, all right, my wish list is everything, because I knew I was going to get some stuff denied. So what's the strategy you see the most with your department heads? Do they walk in with like a pie in the sky list, or do they walk in and you guys have to say this is what's necessary, this isn't? Or does everybody kind of get the system and how this works?
So of course, your number one expenditure is salaries in the village. Okay, that's your number one. But police department's all unionized. The street department's unionized. So your biggest guys are unionized. So you got 3-year contracts, so you know where your expenditures are going to be.
Right.
So when you walk into that meeting, okay, this is where it's going to be. We're going to have a 3.5% increase on public works and police, and there are some wild cards out there. The biggest wild card this year, insurance.
Yeah, insurance has changed so much.
It was insane.
I get private insurance, and suddenly subsidies changed. I had to change my insurance plan just to keep my monthly thing and take less coverage to pay for my insurance monthly at the same rate that I was paying the year before. So I know everybody's insurance gets creamed, and so that changes the expenses for the village.
So what we had to do, which I was involved in this, so now you bring it, that's your number 2 big expense is insurance. And now you bring in insurance people and you start the negotiations with them. How can we cut this back and provide our employees with excellent coverage?
Right.
Certain things you can't touch because the police department's an insurance policy and they got it by contract that you can't certain things. We were able to negotiate it was going to be a tremendous increase. $1 million plus. We knocked it down another $500,000 through some negotiation. The garbage contract, when we did the garbage last year, a year before that, people may look at it, well, my bill didn't go down. But through our negotiations, we knocked $1 million plus off future bills because everybody was going through the roof.
Right.
Our previous vendor said, okay, here's it's going to be up here. So we have to say, hey, we didn't build it. We kind of negotiated it down back to here again. Even though it's a little bit more money, it would have been crazy. So we're always in the background. The mayor's very, very proactive on that, negotiating with our largest vendors on how to try to just keep everything tight. So garbage, water. Well, the city of Chicago, we're doing with the water.
Right, exactly.
We can't do anything about that.
You can't do anything about that. They're just going to send you a bill.
And that's a big expense. And they say, you don't like it, too bad. What do if we don't do what they say, we'll have dust coming out of the faucets. They got, unless we find a lake under here somewhere. But we're always, it's constantly something that's always in motion. It's just like, well, one time a year, we're going to just have finance meetings. We're always talking about all year. We're always looking at revenues. We're always looking for new streams of revenues. That's why our village board and our mayor is very pro-business in this town because they bring in the money. So when business is good, we get a little bit of income tax out of that, property tax, sales tax. That brings us to a point where that we have enough revenue to project what we're going to need. We take all. Chris comes in. You're head of the street department. You want A, B, C, and D. I can get A, B, C, but I can't do D this year. We'll do D next year. And you'll go, okay, good. I can live without certain things this year. Minor things, major things we got to have done. And I mean, we're talking about a $37 million budget.
That's a lot of money,
right?
And there's a lot of moving parts there, and that's what's so interesting to me about it. Like you mentioned the garbage and Flood Brothers, right?
Right.
And you went and got a different vendor, and so I would imagine some of your vendors are on yearly contracts, some of your vendors are on multi-year contracts because you were able to get hey, if I can lock in this rate for a certain amount of time. So then when you see one of those coming up, you probably have to work in advance then to make sure that hey, are they raising the prices? And if they are, we need to get other bids in here so that we're not caught off guard. Is that something that you guys are actively doing all the time?
Garbage is always the biggest thing. So we had waste management.
Right.
A lot of the smoke and mirrors is waste management came in, lowballed everybody. They bought the business. A lot of people do that. I'm a business guy. I've seen people come in and buy the business in certain things, okay? So now they get their foot in the door. Now they got a 2 or 3 year contract. Now it's time for renewal. Now we're going to get our money back. If you're asleep at the switch, you're going to be in trouble. We knew a year before the contract is up, we were having meetings with them. Where are you going to be? What are you going to do? We're not going to wait till the last minute. They came with a tremendous increase. Tremendous. Figuring they had us. Well, nobody has us.
Yeah, because you're a year in advance and you can go shopping.
Okay.
Now. Yeah.
Well, we brought in 5 different garbage companies and met with them all. And the particular people that we have now, family, I like it when I go in a meeting and the owner's in there and his brother's in there and his son's in the meeting. That's a family business.
Right.
I can get at a family business. If I got a problem, I can call them up. Who am I going to call? Waste Management? Some guy that's a district manager and he doesn't have the power to do anything? I call Flood Brothers. I can talk to the owner. And he's got the power to make it happen that day, that minute, that. So it's very advantageous for us to do business with the smaller business if it's a family-owned type company, if they give us the right deal. This guy gives us the service, and he gives us the right deal.
Are there any things that we're going to see this year that kind of stand out to you that came across in the budget meetings, or is it essentially just equipment and upgrades and things like that? Because I know the mayor mentioned there's a grant that you guys have applied for some improvements. You don't always just use this pile that you get from the revenue increase. Sometimes you're able to apply for programs that will provide additional money for improvements to the village.
The grants, you'll know when you formulate your budget how good it's going to look on the grant.
Yeah.
When you got a 10% chance, 50%, 100% chance. The mayor has been absolutely phenomenal at getting these grants and doing the legwork to get them. When the mayor was a state rep, she made a lot of contacts, and that's a fantastic thing for our village. The mayor knows who to reach out to. Said, hey, we need this for Evergreen Park, and here's why. Other people that don't know, you got to have contacts in this, especially in the state. There's a lot of moving parts.
I always thought that was such an advantage. I mean, just to kind of jump off of what we're talking about here, but I always thought that was a real advantage with her. Like when she decided as a state rep that she was going to run for mayor, and I remember everybody was we asked her the question directly on this show multiple times, even when she was running her first campaign to do it. Like, how are you going to do both of them? And like, what is the benefit and what could be the drawback to it? And I saw that firsthand through the interviews. I was watching very closely when she would interact with like other businesses, and she would interact with me. It really, it seems like quite a benefit to have that long-standing relationship with people down in Springfield to be able to do things that benefit your village. You can get the person on the phone you need to talk to, where another mayor isn't able to get that kind of response.
That's correct. And if you don't have those connections, you go to the bottom of the line. And the mayor knows who the movers and the shakers are and who can help us. And I'm not saying we get it all the time, but at least we know who to make the phone call to.
Yeah.
And that's very important. And then they look at it and there's a lot in the back in grant writing. It's, you better dot your I's and cross your T's or it's going to get rejected. And our village works very hard on getting grant money. But some of that is supplemented. Some of that is into the budget factored in. Some of it's like, okay, if we get it, it'll be great. So we did our whole budget process. We talked to the department heads. It goes to John Sawyer's. John Sawyer's cuts out a few minor things, maybe keeps it all. Right now, we project for next year's budget, if everything goes good, and we have contingency money and everything in there, we should have a $70,000 surplus in our budget if everything goes perfect.
Okay.
So I've been doing this.
So you're going to throw a big pizza party for the village with the $70,000? No, it goes
back in the coffers. I ran a business for many years, and every time I made $1 or $2, I threw it back in inventory again.
Right.
Threw it back in inventory again. Threw it back in inventory again. Because if you go out and spend it and then you need it, you're in trouble. So we don't do that. We throw it back in the bank. Build. You never know when a rainy day comes. A fire truck's a couple $1 million. What if one blows up? What are we going to do? Say, sorry, we can't help the people?
Right.
So we're always ready for the rainy day, so to speak. We have contingency funds. We're well backed on that. And I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been chairman of the finance committee. And we've had a budget that's in the black for 30 years.
Good for you.
And I won't tolerate anything less.
That's quite a flex right there. I've been doing this for 3 decades. We've always been in the black.
You cannot find him.
You should lead with that. We're 20 minutes into this thing. You should have led right with that.
I'm not blowing this is a team effort, pal. It wasn't Mark Marzullo. Listen, I was with Mayor Vacco. I was with Mayor Sexton.
Right.
And now I'm with Mayor Burke. And it's a total team effort.
Yeah.
And everybody works together as a team. There's not one guy that does it all. The team does it all. And the team gets it done for the village of Evergreen Park.
What's the most common question you get from the public about the budget? Because I know that you have public meetings and you have things that people walk up. Like, what is the thing that's most misunderstood? Like, because we brought this up already. The idea that sometimes people don't recognize that the school districts are 2 different districts.
Right.
They work independently and they're independent of the village. But I mean, like, I see it every once in a while where, I don't know the inner workings of everything. I've learned several things today. So like when you have people that show up and they're talking about like, why do we have a brand new squad car or why do we have this? Like, what is the most common misconception at the public?
One of the biggest misconceptions was, okay, you formulate your budget. Okay, now your revenues are coming in, your money's going out. So you always got $5-10 million in the bank.
Yeah.
In and out, in and out, in and out. Well, someone came to the village board meeting and says, well, you got $10 million in the bank right now. Why don't we take that $10 million and build a water park? I go, wait a minute. That's for bills coming in.
That's amazing.
You're taking a snapshot right now today.
Right.
Tomorrow that number's it's just like our checking account. On payday, the checking account looks real good.
Yeah.
And then I got to pay the house. I got to do this, the gas, the ding, the ding, the ding. That money's not there maybe a week later, but it keeps on coming in and keeps on coming in. So people were convinced, oh, you got this extra money, just do this, spend it. No, that is not how it works.
Right.
But budget-wise, most people understand, I think, that we're very prudent and fiscally responsible. And I think they understand it because when we have our finance meetings, it's not many people come to it. We're going to pass the final budget on the finance at the next village board meeting. And people seem to understand that your money's being spent wisely.
Yeah, and I also think that you see it when there's snowfall, the streets are cleared quicker than the areas around Evergreen Park, right? I mean, Oak Lawn's behind you. Like Chicago's definitely behind you in snow removal, but even Oak Lawn. So I think when people see the services they're paying for working properly, that's probably the biggest thing.
Well, here we have to buy salt. You have to guarantee a certain buy of salt every year, whether you need it or not. We haven't needed it the last 2 years, but you have to commit to buy it because that's how you get. If you call them up and say we're out of salt, send it now. Oh well, you didn't pre-buy. Here's the price. It's through the roof.
Right.
But if you pre-buy, it's going to be half the price. So we're always pre-buying salt. We're always doing things to look at the best bargain we can get. Now we've used a little bit more salt this year, but you've been around a while, and I've been around a while, and I'll tell you one thing. I think a lot of mayors and politicians in the state learned one thing. Ask Mike Bolandic about not getting the streets plowed. Ask Mike Bolandic about not getting the streets salted. Because you know what the answer is? Right. It was Jane Byrne was the answer. So, I think a lot of people took that political lesson and said, I'm cleaning these streets no matter what.
Streets will be cleaned. Don't worry about it.
We've always done that no matter what because the residents, look, we're one of the only villages to pick up leaves. No, you can't go to another suburb.
Nobody else does that.
Nobody else does that.
Nobody else does that.
And now it's snowed on top of leaves and people are calling my house screaming about it. I said, when the snow melts, they'll get the leaves. But I can't find the leaves because the snow's on top of them right now.
I always love the calls you guys get. I really do. I mean, I get a kick out of it because I'll hear about all the you get phone calls from people. The mayor gets phone calls from people. Like I find it to be just such an interesting thing that it's a village government that and yet the government is so accessible to people. Like I actually had somebody write me a message the other day after my last interview with the mayor. Went to the eppodcast.com and sent me a message and said, I would love if you asked her this question. And I was like, call her. I'll ask it the next time she's on, but she'll pick up the phone, which is it sometimes blows my mind. That's crazy to me.
She'll go, and if she can't get a hold of, she'll go knock to your house and knock on the door and say, what's up?
Surprise, I'm here.
How can I help you? Yeah. The mayor's at my house, you know what I mean? But that's why we've been successful. We have great trustees, and I knew one of the former mayor of Oak Lawn, Dave Hellman, great guy, knew Dave real well. And I saw Dave once, and Dave said, Mark, I got to talk to you. He said, I go to these Oak Lawn Village Board meetings. This is years ago when he was the mayor. And you'd see in the paper, it was a fist fight every meeting. The mayor had just sweat bullets. The trustees were always busting his chops because they all had a political agenda of some kind, okay? You have 6 trustees. So he goes, how do you guys do it? I says, you got 6 trustees that want your job. I said, Jim Sexton, back in the day, I says, he's got 6 trustees that don't want the job. But we're in the background to support him.
Right. I remember when he was leaving, everybody assumed it was going to be you. And you were like, I don't want that job.
I'm running a business at the time. I had a heart attack in 2015 because of business. I says, you know what? I'm very healthy now. It's all good.
That's good.
And you go back to that. What could Mark Marzullo bring to the table? I've been around, but I don't have those connections that Kelly Burke had and Jimmy Sexton had. You need. And I realized that I appreciate the compliment that people thought about me in life, but I know there was better people than me to take the job.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Some people get an ego. Ugh. I have no ego about that. I'm here to, Chris, I'm here to make sure the village runs smooth and the people get what they need because I love this village.
Well, you do a great job. And again, in the black 30 years.
30 years.
Again, you should have just led with that.
It's and you consider the things that we've done infrastructurally.
Yeah.
Mayor Vacco was a great, and that's one thing about the mayors. Mayor Vacco set a high bar. And when Jimmy got the job, he says, Jimmy, you got a tough job. I said, that bar is pretty high. Jimmy Sexton set the bar really high. Rebuilt Evergreen Park. There's one man that rebuilt the whole town. Everything, because the infrastructure was kind of iffy under Vacco, okay? When Kelly Burke got the job, the bar was, I go, Kelly, this is a tough job. The bar is so high. She's raised the bar even to do her type of things. And it's just so refreshing to see that in 30 years, we've had 3 mayors and they've all done a fantastic job. And it's just a great place to be a part of. It's a great thing to be a part of.
No, that's awesome. And this was really informative. And we're very, very lucky that Mark Marzullo stops by from time to time. And he is an open book. You're one of my favorite interviews because you give it to me right away. You are one of the easiest interviews that I get. This isn't even work for me this week.
I don't have anything to hide. And I tell like it is. And,
This is one of my easiest things. When I see you on the schedule, I go, there we go. It's going to be a fun time.
It's people, maybe they don't believe me or maybe don't believe Village Board. This Village Board is here to make sure this town is run smooth and the residents get what they need. And that's it. That's our job, period. My business background, 46 years running a business, and I always said the village, the residents of Evergreen Park are like customers. Give the customers what they want. That's what you got to do to be successful. If you're successful in business, I was successful in business. Our customers got what they want, what they needed. And I look at it, I brought that kind of philosophy to the Village Board. There are customers, you give them what they want, they give them what they need, because they're paying us. They're paying taxes.
Right.
So they deserve the best services that we can provide.
Awesome. Mark Marzullo, thanks so much.
Thank you, Chris. And you have a beautiful day, and I'll be looking forward to go to Spoken Vine. And
yeah, the next one will be wine, I promise.
Wine? I'm in.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them.
It is now time for your EP podcast, Word on the Street, brought to you by Spoken Vine Wine Bar and Bottle Shop, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie. Some great wine tasting events going on back end of this month into February. You can go online and register. There's food. There's all kinds of tastings of different wines. 2 different types right now that you can get in on. They're doing one called From the Mountains to the Sea, White Wines of Italy. And then they're doing another one that's just perfect Pinots. So depending on the type of wine you like to drink or want to taste, you can find an event for you and your friends and anybody else who wants to join you at SpokenVineWines.com. The Evergreen Park Public Library is presenting a really cool event this Wednesday, January the 14th. Kicks off at 6 p.m. Take a photographic journey through all 7 continents with Dr. Michael S. Lewis. The name of the event is One World Peak Photographic Travel. His award-winning images of people, animals, landscapes captured during his travel have been shown in numerous galleries, exhibitions, and published in both books and magazines. And here in Evergreen Park, you can go and check it all out Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. I believe it is an hour-long event. Register online at evergreenparklibrary.org. Flood Brothers is going to be collecting string lights that are not working or unwanted through the end of this month. Drop it off at the bin, Village Hall, 9418 South Kedzie, during business hours. They're also picking up your Christmas trees. Just lay them out there on the curb, and they'll pick it up during their regular pickup. That way you can recycle those and the lights this month only. There's a community blood drive. Donate blood and save lives on Saturday, January 31st from 9 a.m. until noon at the Community Center, 3450 West 97th Street. Schedule your donation by calling 800-280-4102 or visit communityblood.org/donor and use the code CO48. You must register in advance. Remember to hydrate, know your medication, your travel history, and bring your photo ID. And also, the Village of Evergreen Park is seeking applicants for 2 full-time public works maintenance worker positions. These guys do everything. They always seem to really like their jobs, right? They're looking for those that can do unskilled and semi-skilled general labor, maintenance tasks in the care and upkeep of streets and alleys, sewers, water lines, buildings, grounds, and equipment. These are the guys that put up the tree during Christmas, help run all the different events. And again, they always seem to have a smile on their face. So if you're looking for a job, 2 spots open, evergreenpark-ill.com/jobs for details and the application. That's your EP podcast. Once again, my thanks to Mark Marzullo, your village trustee. Remember to subscribe to the EP podcast on YouTube. You can follow it on Facebook, but I think subscribing is a better idea. So you can go to YouTube, get video there if you like the video. The audio is anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at the eppodcast.com. Go Bears!
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.